There was a time, not too long ago, when mysteries still carried weight. When strange discoveries weren't explained away in a tweet, but debated at kitchen tables, in libraries, and late-night radio shows. Many of you remember those days when the moon landing sparked wonder and the Bermuda Triangle was more than a bedtime story. Today, we bring that sense of wonder back. Across deserts, jungles, and oceans, there are artifacts that defy logic and history books. From 40-ton stone heads in Mexico to an ancient Hebrew inscription in New Mexico, from jade figurines without a source to what looks like alien tech beneath Antarctic waters, and finally, perfect stone spheres buried deep in Russian ice. These aren't tales from a sci-fi novel. They're real discoveries, documented, photographed, and still unexplained. Are we missing a chapter of human history? Or has it been deliberately hidden? Subscribe now and stay with us as we unravel 5 unsolved mysteries that challenge everything we thought we knew about our past and possibly our future. Because some questions grow louder with age, and some truths were never meant to stay buried. They weren't just heads. They were warnings, reminders carved in stone. Scattered across the jungles and lowlands of present-day Mexico are 17 colossal basalt heads, some towering over 9 feet tall and weighing more than 40 tons. Their faces are hauntingly human, thick lips, broad noses, helmets resting on their brows, yet their expression? Silent. Eternal. These are the Olmec Colossal Heads, one of the greatest archaeological enigmas of the ancient world. And what makes them truly mysterious isn't just their size. It's who made them, how, and why. The Olmec civilization, often dubbed the mother culture of Mesoamerica, thrived more than 3,000 years ago, long before the rise of the Maya or Aztecs. But we don't even know what they called themselves. Olmec is a name assigned by later cultures, meaning rubber people, a reference to their use of natural latex. They left no written records, no scrolls, no official language, just art, ruins, and these heads. So how did a people from 1000 BC, without the wheel, without metal tools, and without pack animals, manage to carve and move multi-ton stones through dense jungle, rivers, and muddy lowlands, with no roads, carts, or horses? Archaeologists have tried to reproduce this feat using only the tools the Olmecs would have had: wooden rollers, ropes made of vines, rafts. None of these methods worked efficiently or safely. In fact, many researchers admit we don't actually know how they did it. Could they have possessed a forgotten technology? Some fringe theorists suggest they harnessed lost knowledge, perhaps vibrational stone-moving techniques, similar to those proposed at the Egyptian pyramids or Baalbek. Others go further, whispering about ancient astronauts, visitors who gifted the Olmecs knowledge beyond their time. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, let's examine the faces. Each colossal head is unique. The features vary, some appear almost African, others resemble Mesoamerican. Warriors. They all wear helmet-like headgear, leading some to speculate they depict elite ball players, kings, or even gods. One theory suggests the heads are portraits of specific rulers, immortalized not in paint or papyrus, but in stone. But if that's true, why are no names ever associated with them? No markings? No identifiers? Another theory, they weren't meant to be seen by the common people at all. Some of the heads were buried intentionally, face down, hidden beneath layers of earth. Were they buried during invasions? Or were the Olmecs trying to conceal something from us? Some of the heads appear to be aligned with celestial events, solstices, equinoxes, lunar cycles. Could they have been part of an ancient observatory network? Maybe they weren't just portraits, but guardians of sacred knowledge. Linked to the stars. It's not far-fetched. The Olmecs were known to create complex calendars. They even understood zero, a mathematical concept Europe wouldn't fully grasp for over 1,000 years. What else did they understand? Then, just like that, they disappeared. Around 400 BCE, the Olmec civilization vanished. Their great cities, San Lorenzo, La Venta, were abandoned. No signs of war. No signs of famine. No clear reason why. Some believe they were absorbed into emerging cultures like the Zapotecs and Maya. Others suggest a massive flood or volcanic eruption wiped them out. But what if it wasn't destruction, but withdrawal? What if the Olmecs didn't vanish, but left intentionally, taking their deeper secrets with them? What if these heads were not left behind accidentally, but left behind purposefully, as monuments for the next civilization, or warnings for us? In the 1940s and 50s, U.S. archaeologists began officially studying the Olmec heads, during the same Cold War era that gave us Area 51, Roswell, and the CIA's earliest covert psychological programs. Older Americans today remember those times well, the feeling that something was happening beneath the surface. That the truth was often protected for our own good. That era of withheld knowledge echoes here. Could these ancient monuments be part of a much larger pattern? The heads don't just sit in soil, they sit on the edge of our understanding, waiting to be reinterpreted by every generation. Today's mainstream theory is that the heads were carved using obsidian tools, with enormous labor forces dragging them across makeshift paths. But even with best-case assumptions, the math doesn't add up. The precision, the size, the transportation. And here's the part many experts avoid: the heads don't fit neatly into Mesoamerican art traditions. They almost seem foreign. Are they evidence of an ancient, now erased world culture? Are they proof of transcontinental contact thousands of years earlier than we're taught? Or were they messages left behind by something, or someone, far older than we've imagined? Whatever the truth is, the Olmec heads continue to defy explanation. They remind us that we are not the first to wonder, to build, to carve our legacy into stone. But what if those legacies weren't limited to the jungles of Mexico? What if they reached across oceans, into deserts, onto mountaintops, even across belief systems? Because the next mystery? It's even more unbelievable. A 60-ton boulder in New Mexico bears an ancient inscription in early Hebrew, long before Columbus, before Leif Erikson, before any known crossing of the Atlantic. If it's real, it rewrites history. If it's fake, it's the most elaborate archaeological hoax ever made. Let's go deeper. The desert doesn't whisper, it keeps secrets. Southwest of Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the base of a remote mesa, lies a mystery carved in stone. On a weathered boulder nearly 60 tons in weight, there is an inscription, not in Spanish, not in Latin, not even in an indigenous script, but in an ancient form of Hebrew. The message? A version of the Ten Commandments. They call it the Los Lunas Decalogue stone, and if it's authentic, it changes everything we know about the ancient world. Discovered in the 1930s, some say even earlier, the stone has been the center of heated debates ever since. Who carved it? When? And most importantly, how could ancient Semitic peoples have crossed the Atlantic, trekked deep into North America, and inscribed Hebrew law thousands of years before Columbus? The site isn't marked. There's no gift shop, no park ranger. It's remote, vandalized, controversial, and completely off the history books. But that's precisely what makes it so compelling. The inscription itself appears to be written in Paleo-Hebrew, a script that was primarily used around the time of the First Temple in Jerusalem, roughly 800 to 500 BCE. Some linguists claim the syntax and grammar are surprisingly accurate for that period. It's not a random carving. It's structured, intentional. But here's the catch: mainstream archaeologists say the stone is not ancient, that it's the work of a 19th century hoaxer or an early settler with a good knowledge of Hebrew. Except, no one has ever identified who that person could have been. No confession, no journal, no claim of authorship. Just silence. For older generations, this mystery has particular weight. Those who grew up with biblical values, who memorized the 10 Commandments in school, find it both inspiring and unsettling. Because it means two deeply held belief systems, ancient Jewish scripture and American soil, might be linked in ways no one ever imagined. It tugs at something primal. If true, it means the old world and new world weren't separated by oceans, but connected by voyages now lost to history. And that's not just a fringe idea. Some scholars and explorers have argued for decades that pre-Columbian transoceanic contact happened more often than we think. Egyptian-style artifacts in the Grand Canyon, Roman coins found in Texas, and now, Hebrew commandments on a New Mexico hillside. Are all these coincidences, or is there a bigger pattern waiting to be uncovered? Skeptics have offered explanations. Some say the inscription's grammar is slightly off, or that weathering on the rock isn't consistent with a 2,000-year-old artifact. But erosion studies have been inconclusive. Here's what makes things murkier: the U.S. government has shown little to no interest in researching the stone. Officially, no excavations, no preservation efforts. In fact, some reports say attempts to further study the site have been quietly blocked. Why? Some believe it's to avoid the controversy that would follow if the artifact were authenticated. It would challenge the dominant narrative that the Americas were isolated until European contact, that no one crossed the ocean with scripture in hand, centuries before Christ. It would also suggest that ancient prophets, exiles, or perhaps entire sects seeking refuge may have fled persecution and landed in what is now the American Southwest. But not all theories point to religion. Some believe the stone could have been left by an advanced seafaring civilization, one that mapped coastlines long before the age of exploration, one that understood the stars, one that saw the desert not as a barrier, but as a waypoint. Others go even further. Some claim that the Los Lunas inscription might not just be Hebrew, but a hybrid language, a blend of Phoenician trade script and Proto-Canaanite glyphs. That would mean the message wasn't just moral, it may have been navigational. Coordinates. A marker. A signal left behind for others. What if this wasn't the only one? A lesser-known carving in the American Midwest and another near Tennessee show similar letterforms. These sites, dismissed by academia, continue to attract independent researchers and biblical scholars who believe something larger is being missed or ignored. Of course, it's also possible that the truth is simple: that the Los Lunas stone is a clever hoax, that some unknown person carved it in good faith or mischief and walked away without a trace. But if that's true, why does the site continue to resist clarity? Why does the weathering suggest centuries, not decades, of exposure? Why does no one claim credit? And why does it feel like history is trying to tell us something, and we're not listening? As you stand near the stone, it's quiet. The kind of quiet that feels old. The kind of quiet that settles into your bones. You can almost imagine it, a group of travelers, maybe exiles, arriving in a land so vast and empty, it must have felt like the edge of creation. They carve into rock what matters most: their laws, their faith, their legacy. And then, they vanish. Some believe they went deeper into the continent. Others say they were absorbed into native cultures. Others still wonder if they were never human to begin with. That's the thing about unexplained artifacts, they're not just mysteries. They're mirrors. They show us how little we really know about our past, about the stories we were taught, about the world we live in. The Los Lunas Decalogue stone may never be officially authenticated, but the questions it raises will echo long after the rock has faded. Because if laws from the Old Testament were carved into American stone over 2,500 years ago, what else is waiting to be uncovered? What else have we misunderstood or deliberately forgotten? And what happens when the next artifact challenges not just our history books, but our sense of what's possible? We're heading there next. To a land where precious jade, stone that doesn't even exist locally, was carved with stunning precision by a mysterious culture. No minds. No sources. No explanation. And yet, the jade is real. The carvings are perfect. And the questions only get deeper. Let's move on. It glows like frozen light. Tougher than steel, older than empire, jade is not just beautiful, it's mysterious. And in the heart of Costa Rica, thousands of miles from any known jade source, lie figurines and ornaments so finely carved, they rival anything made by China's ancient dynasties. But here's the twist. Costa Rica has no natural jade deposits. No mines. No seams in the mountains. Nothing. So where did the jade come from? Who brought it? And how did an ancient culture with no metallurgy, no draft animals, and no written language carve it with such precision? For years, archaeologists were baffled. These green artifacts, mostly dating between 500 BC and 800 CE, were found in graves, ceremonial sites, and mysterious spheres aligned with the sun and stars. Some were shaped like animals. Others, like sharp-edged tools that couldn't possibly have had a practical use. Jade is extremely difficult to work with. It's not soft like soapstone or chalk. It's dense. It resists ordinary tools. Even with modern technology, shaping jade requires hours of labor, water-cooled blades, and diamond bits. Yet somehow, these pre-Columbian cultures, without metal tools, managed to carve intricate shapes, inlays, and symmetrical patterns into it. Not just once, but again and again. On objects of ritual and meaning. Was this jade imported through trade? That's the official story. That ancient traders brought jade down from Guatemala, or even further north, through a vast and sophisticated trade network. But if that were true, why do we not find any trace of the traders themselves? No ruins, no settlements, no caravans or cargo vessels. Just the jade, and the people who shouldn't have had access to it. And even if it was traded, how did a culture without any known mining infrastructure know how to work it so perfectly? That's where the mystery deepens. Many of the jade carvings found in Costa Rica bear surprisingly abstract and symmetrical designs, some say even modern-looking. Shapes that resemble gears. Figures that appear robotic. One even seems to depict a being with an elongated head, sitting in a position that resembles modern astronauts. Coincidence? Maybe. But it raises a bigger question. Were these jade objects representations of something the carvers saw? Or something they were told to remember? What's more haunting is this: there are no written instructions, no blueprints, no carvings of tools used to make them. Just the artifacts themselves, silent, gleaming, and strangely advanced. In recent years, some theorists have proposed that these figurines could be more than decorative or ceremonial. That perhaps they were symbols passed down from an older civilization, one lost to time. A civilization that understood energy, crystal resonance, or even sound-based carving. Too far-fetched? Not according to some physicists, who believe sound frequency and vibration could affect dense materials at a molecular level. In theory, it's possible to shape hard stone using tuned vibration, if you understand the harmonics well enough. But how would a jungle culture in ancient Costa Rica know that? Others believe these figurines may be more than memory, that they were messages. That jade, due to its crystalline structure, can hold energy signatures or data over long periods. A kind of primitive data storage left behind, not by aliens, but by a civilization that predated the ones we know. A message not meant to be read, but decoded. There's also the mystery of the stone spheres found across Costa Rica, perfectly round, weighing up to 16 tons. Often found near jade artifact sites. Like markers, coordinates, or warnings. Could the jade figurines and the spheres be part of the same system? Were they aligned to the stars for a reason? Or was this all coincidence, born of nature and devotion? For the people who carved them, jade wasn't just treasure, it was sacred. It represented life, fertility, eternity. It was buried with the dead, offered to the gods, carried into battle. But if it was so sacred, why would they hide the knowledge of how to shape it? Why did the skill disappear entirely once the culture faded? Like many ancient technologies, Roman concrete, Damascus steel, the Antikythera mechanism, the jade working skill in Costa Rica vanished. No gradual decline. No evolution. Just gone. That's a pattern we've seen before. A spike of brilliance. Then silence. So what happened here? Did these people lose the knowledge themselves? Or was it taken from them? Or was it never theirs to begin with? And here's where the past blurs with the possible. Some believe the jade wasn't worked here at all. That it arrived already shaped, gifted by travelers either from a forgotten advanced civilization or from somewhere far stranger. Others argue that these figurines, spheres, and ornaments were coded relics, left behind to point toward something like ancient breadcrumbs across Central America. And that brings us to something even harder to explain. Not carved in jade. Not built with stone. But photographed, deep beneath the ice-cold waters off Antarctica. A structure that looks like a metallic antenna. Standing upright. Silent. In a place where no human should be. On a seafloor too deep for natural light and too strange for coincidence. What is it? Who built it? And why does no one want to talk about it? Because if jade can travel thousands of miles before history begins, maybe metal can survive where history ends. Let's go beneath the waves. In 1964, at the height of Cold War paranoia and deep-sea exploration, a U.S. research ship quietly made a discovery that would remain buried, both literally and politically, for decades. The ship's name was Eltanin, the first Antarctic research vessel equipped with sonar, sensors, and advanced imaging tools. Its mission, to collect scientific data from the mysterious, frigid waters of the Southern Ocean. But what it captured was not a fish, a rock, or a trench. It was a structure. From nearly 13,000 feet below the ocean's surface, Eltanin's photographic equipment snapped an image unlike anything seen before. A metallic object rising vertically from the seafloor, symmetrical, segmented, and branching out like a high-frequency antenna. It didn't belong there. To this day, the image remains one of the most puzzling underwater photographs in scientific history. They called it the Eltanin Antenna. Initially dismissed as a marine organism, a sponge, or a coral, the image was quietly shuffled into government archives. But not before copies made their way into the hands of independent researchers, and eventually, conspiracy theorists. Why? Because this wasn't just an odd shape. It looked manufactured. The antenna features a central mast with 6 symmetrical arms branching from it at near-perfect angles. The arms themselves split into finer nodes, almost like tuning forks or signal receivers. The spacing, the design, the geometry, everything about it defies the randomness of natural marine biology. And here's the kicker. No known sea creature has ever matched its form. And no other identical structure has ever been documented in the wild since. So what was it? The official explanation, revised over the years, claims it was Cladoryza concrescens, a type of carnivorous sponge. But if you compare actual specimens of that sponge to the Eltanin photo, the similarities fall apart. Marine biologists themselves have noted the object appears rigid, upright, anchored, not the flexible, drifting silhouette of a living organism. Some believe it could have been Cold War surveillance equipment, either Russian or American, lost or deliberately placed on the ocean floor. But placing such an object at that depth, over 2.5 miles underwater, would have required technology not publicly available in 1964. Others go even deeper, literally and metaphorically. The Southern Ocean near Antarctica is one of the least explored regions on Earth. Beneath its surface lie thousands of miles of submerged ridges, trenches, and volcanic rifts, places where tectonic plates pull apart, and strange heat signatures rise from the deep. It's a world we've barely touched. And it might be hiding more than fish. A growing number of theorists suggest the Eltanin Antenna is evidence of non-human intelligence, either ancient or ongoing. An alien probe. A listening device. A forgotten piece of technology from a civilization that lived long before us, or lives below us still. As wild as it sounds, the idea of ancient advanced cultures building tech beneath the sea is not new. Stories from nearly every early civilization speak of sunken cities, lost continents, or star gods that vanished beneath the waves. And where better to hide a signal tower than Antarctica? International treaties prevent any military activity on the continent. And yet, strange things keep happening. There, satellite images showing anomalies, reported no-fly zones, whistleblowers claiming massive underground complexes. All of it easily dismissed. All of it impossible to verify. Just like the antenna. Interestingly, the Eltanin's image resurfaced in the 1990s during debates about the HARP program, the U.S. military's high-frequency active auroral research project. Some noticed eerie similarities between the Eltanin structure and experimental antenna arrays built for weather manipulation and long-range communication. Could the object on the seafloor be part of an older, abandoned version? Or is it something HARP was trying to replicate? Others say it's not of human origin at all. They point to the object's perfect symmetry and materials, suggesting it may still be operational, quietly gathering data from the seafloor, transmitting it beyond Earth. There's no way to prove any of it. And perhaps that's the point. The original Eltanin image has never been officially rephotographed. The coordinates of the antenna's location? Never released. The ship was decommissioned in 1975. The antenna was never recovered. And the silence surrounding it has only grown louder. To many, it's just another unsolved anomaly. But to those paying attention, it's a symbol, a metallic metaphor for how much of our world remains unseen, unspoken, and unexplored. Because while we look to the stars for alien contact, maybe we should be looking down into the trenches, into the cracks of our own planet, into the darkness where things wait, unbothered by time. If the antenna is real, if it truly was built with purpose, it means someone was here long before us, watching. And maybe they still are. Which leads us to one final mystery. One more object that shouldn't exist. This one isn't buried beneath the sea. It's entombed in ice, in the cold heart of Russia. Giant stone spheres, perfectly round, resting silently in the permafrost. Natural formation or man-made precision. Because nature doesn't usually aim for perfection. But something out there did. Let's move on. Buried deep within Russia's frozen wilderness, far from roads, cities, and even memory, lie massive stone spheres. Not scattered rocks. Not glacier-rolled boulders. But enormous, perfectly rounded spheres. Some weigh over 30 tons. Others remain half-buried in permafrost, their surfaces still smooth despite centuries, or maybe millennia, of exposure to the brutal Siberian cold. They've been found in the Ural Mountains, in far-off Yakutia, and most famously in the remote region of Volgograd. The farther researchers dig, the more of them seem to emerge. And yet, no one can fully explain what they are. Or how they got there. Mainstream scientists say they're likely natural concretions, stone formations caused by mineral deposits building up around a central core, like pearls in sediment. That's the safe explanation. The easy one. But these spheres are too round. Too symmetrical. And, perhaps most importantly, too deliberate. Nature doesn't favor perfection. But these spheres do. Some are embedded deep in solid rock. Others sit alone, untouched by glacial movement, earthquakes, or water flow. That alone raises a simple but disturbing question. If these were naturally formed, why are they isolated? Why aren't there hundreds of them, misshapen, broken, or only partly formed? Instead, what we have are few, but near flawless. Almost designed. Local legends have swirled around these spheres for centuries. Some call them thunderstones, fallen from the sky. Others believe they're eggs of the gods, or remnants of a time when giants walked the earth. And while those stories sound like mythology, there's one unsettling pattern. The spheres tend to appear near ancient burial grounds. Near collapsed dolmens, standing stones, and megalithic sites lost to history. Were they ceremonial markers? Astronomical tools? Or something more, mechanical? In 2016, a Russian news crew was granted rare access to a half-buried sphere recently exposed by melting permafrost. Their footage went viral. The sphere's surface was hard as iron. Weathered, yes, but still geometrically perfect. Scientists on site couldn't agree on its origin. And within weeks, the site was quietly closed. No follow-up. Excavation. No official classification. Just silence. It mirrors a pattern we've seen before. Discovery, speculation, and then disappearance into academic shadows. But the theories haven't stopped. Some suggest the spheres are remnants of a prehistoric global civilization, one that used spherical stone as energy conductors or seismic dampeners. A kind of ancient technology lost to time. It might sound like fantasy until you realize similar spheres have been found across the world. In Bosnia, Costa Rica, Mexico, and New Zealand. Always in remote areas. Always massive. Always unexplained. Could there have been a culture, tens of thousands of years ago, that understood energy, magnetism, and harmonic frequency better than we do today? One that encoded that knowledge, not in books, but in shape? Julius Sumner Miller once said, "The shortest distance between two truths is a straight line, unless the universe prefers a curve." And perhaps these spheres, so perfect, so out of place, are clues. Another theory suggests they were navigation devices, marking ley lines or gravitational anomalies. Mapped from the sky. Built with purpose. Abandoned when the Earth changed. And others? They don't rule out something more, off-world. After all, perfect spheres have always held symbolic power, universally recognized across cultures as representations of wholeness, divinity, the infinite. What better form to encode knowledge or leave a signature? If you were an ancient traveler tasked with leaving behind a message that would survive fire, flood, ice, war, and time, what would you make it from? Not parchment, not gold, but stone, carved into the one shape that defies erosion. And perhaps that's exactly what these are. Messages. Not meant to be read, but noticed. And here's the eerie part. As the world warms, permafrost is melting. New spheres are beginning to appear. Not just in Russia, but in Greenland, Alaska, even deep in Canadian forests. Like they were waiting. And the Earth is finally letting them go. So what happens when we find one that isn't stone? What if the next sphere hums? Or pulses? Or opens? And what if the ancient world we've dismissed as myth is only the surface? Because these 5 mysteries, from the jungles of Mexico to the ice of Siberia, aren't isolated. They're connected by a pattern, a feeling, a resonance. Civilizations we don't understand, building with knowledge we lost, leaving behind symbols we still can't decode. But the message is there. It always has been. Buried in stone. Whispered by water. Frozen in time. And we're only just beginning to listen. We've just traveled across continents and centuries. From the stone faces of lost giants, to commandments carved in forbidden places, to jade that arrived without a source, antennae beneath frozen seas, and spheres more perfect than nature allows. Each artifact whispers a truth we weren't taught. Each sight leaves us with more questions than answers. And maybe that's the point. Because the further we dig into the past, the more it starts to look like we're the ones who forgot. That long before us, someone, something, knew more, built more, and left behind just enough to be rediscovered. But not enough to be understood. Maybe that knowledge was hidden. Or maybe it was buried, waiting for us. Now, if this journey stirred something in you, curiosity, wonder, maybe even unease, then don't let it end here. Subscribe for more untold stories. Like if you believe the truth is still out there. And comment with the mystery you want us to explore next. Because these are more than ancient relics. They are pieces of a forgotten world. And we're putting them back together. One mystery at a time. We'll see you in the next chapter.